McPherson hung up the telephone and stared at his office window at the morning sun. It was no longer pale and cold. There was the full warmth of the morning. "That was Ross," he said. Morris nodded from the corner. "And Benson came to her apartment. She lost him," Morris sighed. "He didn't seem to be all day," McPherson said. He shook his head, not taking his eyes off the sun. "I don't believe in luck," he said. He turned to Morris. "Do you?" Morris was tired. He hadn't really been listening. "Do I what?" "Believe in luck." "Sure. All surgeons believe in luck." "I don't believe in luck," McPherson repeated. "Never did. I always believed in planning." He gestured to the charts on his wall. Charts on the wall, then lapsed, staring at them. The charts were large things, 4 feet across, and intricately done in many colors. They were really glorified flowcharts with timetables for technical advances. He had always been proud of technical advances. For example, in 1967, he examined the state of 3 areas: diagnostic, conceptualization, surgical technology, and microelectronics, and concluded that they would all come together to allow an operation for psychomotor epilepsy in July of 1971. They had beaten his estimate by 4 months, but it was still damned accurate. "Damned accurate," he said. "What?" Morris said. McPherson shook his head. "Are you tired?" "Yes." "I guess we're all tired. Where's Ellis?" "Making coffee." McPherson nodded. Coffee would be good. He rubbed his eyes, wondering when he would be able to sleep. Not for a while. Not until they had Benson back. And that could take many hours, or perhaps another day. He looked again at the charts. Everything had been going so well. Electrode implantation 4 months ahead of schedule. Computer simulation on behavior almost 9 months ahead. But that, too, was having problems. George and Martha programs were behaving erratically. And Form Q? He shook his head. Form Q might never get off the ground, although it was his favorite project and had always been. Form Q on the flowchart for 1979, with human application beginning in 1986. In 1986, he would be 75 years old, if he was still alive, but he didn't worry about that. It was the idea, the simple idea, that intrigued him. Form Q was the logical outgrowth of all the work at the NPS. It began as a project called Form Quixoticus, because it seemed so impossible, but McPherson felt certain that it would happen because it was so necessary. For one thing, it was a question of size. For another, a question of expense. A modern electronic computer, say a third-generation IBM digital computer, would cost several $1,000,000. It drew an enormous amount of power. It consumed space voraciously, yet the largest computer still had the same number of circuits as the brain of an ant. To make a computer with the capacity of a human brain would require a huge skyscraper. Its energy demands would be the equivalent of a city and 500,000. Obviously, nobody would ever try to build such a computer using current technology. New methods would have to be found, and there wasn't much doubt in McPherson's mind what the methods would be. Living tissue. The theory was simple enough. A computer, like a human brain, was compressed and was composed of functioning units, little flip-flop cells of one kind or another. The size of those units had shrunk considerably over the years. They would continue to shrink as large-scale integration and other microelectronics technology improved. Power requirements would also decrease. But the individual units would never become as small as a nerve cell, a neuron. You could pack 1,000,000 nerve cells into 1 cubic inch. No human miniaturization method would ever achieve that economy of space, nor would any human method ever produce a unit that operated on so little power as a nerve cell. Therefore, making computers grow from living nerve cells. It was already possible to grow isolated nerve cells in tissue culture. It was possible to alter them artificially in different ways. In the future, it would be possible to grow them to special. It was possible to alter them artificially in different ways. In the future, it would be possible to grow them specification, to make them link up in specific ways. Once you could do that, you could make a computer that was, say, 6 cubic feet in volume, but contained thousands of billions of nerve cells. Its energy requirements would not be excessive. Its heat production and waste products would be manageable. Yet, it would be the most intelligent entity on the planet by far. Form Q. Preliminary work had already been done in a number of laboratories and government research units around the country. Advances were being made. But for McPherson, the most exciting prospect was not superintelligent organic computers. That was just a side product. What was really interesting was the idea of an organic prosthesis for the human brain. Because once you developed an organic computer, a computer composed of living cells and deriving energy from oxygenated, nutrified blood, then you could transplant it into a human being, and you would have a man with 2 brains. What would that be like? McPherson could hardly imagine it. There were endless problems, of course. Problems of interconnection, problems of locations, speculative problems about competition between the old brain and the new transplant. There was plenty of time to solve that before 1986. After all, in 1950, most people still laughed at the idea of going to the moon. Form Q, it was only a vision now, but with funding it could happen, and he had been convinced that it would happen until Benson left the hospital. That changed everything. Ellis stuck his head in the office door. "Anybody want coffee?" "Yes," McPherson said. He looked over at Morse. "No," Morse said. He got up out of his chair. "I think I'll replay some of Benson's interview tapes." "Good idea," McPherson said, though he did not really think so. He realized that Morse had to keep busy, had to do something, anything just to remain active. Morse left, Ellis left, and McPherson was alone with his multicolored charts and his thoughts.